It is another beautiful Thursday for us to come on Divine Mercy Radio Television on your program, on our program Women's Voice, where we come to empower women to amplify the voices of women and make more insights, bring up more insights, and why not solutions to some of the problems facing the gender. And today we are looking at a very crucial topic that affects women worldwide. Healthy relationships. Specifically, we'll be exploring toxic relationship, that's signs of toxicity in relationship, and most importantly how to escape from them. And that is why we came up with this group of panelists to talk on how women can find out those, so how can they discover some of those signs of a toxic relationship? How do they know whether or not they are in a toxic relationship, and how do they escape from it such that their mental health is intact? So we came up with these panelists today to talk on maybe the problems. Obviously, we're going to be looking at some of the problems and coming up with possible solutions women can use to tackle this very crucial issue that affects them, their healthy relationships, and very mental problems that affect them, how they behave, how they interact with persons, and how they perceive the society. So today in the studio, I am not alone on Women's Voice. I'm joined with two very great minds. I'm here with Madam Honorine Chen, who is a journalist and founder of Social Action Voice. That's an NGO which is out to amplify the voices of community leaders, and of course she also deals with women empowerment. So greetings, Madam Chen, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on your platform, Madeline. I'm so honored to be here and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. And we also have with us a very strong mind when we come to anything concerning mental health. We are joined today with Dr. Tamanjong Armstrong, who is the founder of C&A Mental Health, and he's a public mental health consultant and a behavioral biologist. Good evening, Dr. Armstrong, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Madam Wando. I'm happy to be with you.
Okay. And today on the program this evening, we are going to be looking at some of the things, some of the should I say stress factors women go through, and how they tackle these things, and how they find themselves in the society. We are not just talking women, we are talking of gender, boy, girls, how they go through toxic relationships, how they are able to maintain their mental health in the society despite every other thing they face. So before we get into the discussion of the day, maybe Dr. Armstrong, you want to tell us, when we talk of what are some of the common signs of toxic relationships, and how do you think women can escape or recognize them?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm glad to be with you, and to my co-panelists. It's a great time for us to improve on our community's well-being for productivity. Like I usually say, I want everybody to always know when we talk of mental health, we are talking productivity. And productivity is talking money. And so because, like the topic, toxic relationships, most toxic relationships always end with unproductivity. And that is not an advantage for us. So if we are talking about that, I was coming to improve on someone today. I was coming to look at how we can bring a change, because I like doing very practical things. Like I told you earlier, I don't like talking on theoretical topics. So, but the first thing we have to understand is, what is a toxic relationship? A toxic relationship is one that is harmful, is hurtful, is detrimental to the people involved in. It could be, we might be looking at, when we talk of a toxic relationship, it could affect both the male or the female. But in your context today, I'm sure you are trying to address the woman. Mm-hmm. And so when you talk of the woman, you're talking of the entire family, that's the child, because the woman carries the children. And so a toxic relationship could equally be at the workplace, it could be in a friendship, it could be in a romantic relationship, as well as it could be even in church. So by addressing some common signs, we should know that the first thing is it deals with emotional abuse. So emotional abuse, when your emotions, because your emotions, they determine your well-being. When you feel emotionally down, you can't be productive. And if someone is a risk factor, because in public health we talk of risk factors. For example, if I show up and then immediately your countenance changes, you can't express yourself better than you did before, it means I am a risk factor to your emotions. And that could be detrimental to your well-being and your productivity. Why? Because your self-esteem has been jeopardized. So you can't be at the top of you. And that means for emotional abuse, words, belittling words will be used. Gaslighting, that is what they say, move me news, will be common. Then emotional blackmails are common. So we equally have emotional manipulation and control. In toxic relationship, there are always manipulative strategies, and it's always about control. One person wants to control the others, and you can still control, but in a very lovely manner. But in toxic relationship, it's always abusive, like we said. And so the control there is abusive, in that we equally have tendencies like isolation. Because once the emotions are dead, then social isolation, social exclusion, they start setting in. And that's why somebody can see a call and starts refusing to pick. You text and they don't want to reply on time. And you know, the abusive one will always say, I don't call you 7 times, you know, one pick. Now is it? And so you are trying to control, because it's like the person must pick your call. I must not pick your call when you need it, especially when my emotions are not right with you. It's just a natural tendency. But now, when you work on yourself, when you improve on your personality, you can deal with those stress factors. And this is where mental health comes in. So, financial control, like I talk about control could be isolation, financial control, constant criticism. And then we could equally look at emotional or toxic relationships could deal equally with physical abuse. And so it goes with violence, physical violence. You know, abuse or violence could be emotional or physical. And so you find those use of physical, like beating and all the like involved. It could be passive aggressive behavior and stuff like that, which are all not healthy for the environment. This, especially when you do that to a partner in the context of a family, the children are watching and they know mommy is not treating daddy well, daddy is not treating mommy well. For example, I had a child, some children going back to school, because I work more with schools for now, because the best way to prevent that and manage it for the purpose of posterity is address that of the kids first before you go to the adults, because the adults always have their ways. For example, you see couples in a toxic relationship, but their wife still gets pregnant for the husband. So the question is, how did that happen? So these are the things we look about. So those signs are always there, but it is not to scare you. It could be to challenge you to step up.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. And just like you said, women go through a lot of factors when it comes to toxic relationships. So I want to look at how, onto you, Madam Honorine, how can women manage this? You know, I've talked of the stages or the various factors by which women have toxic relationships. But we're talking of management, because you cannot live a life without, there must be some level of toxicity at every stage in your life. So how can women manage this toxicity?
Okay, So we understand that just like women, just like children, just like men, we all need coping mechanisms if we are in a situation or if we are in a relationship that is toxic. So how can a woman manage a toxic relationship? I think the first thing is, first of all, for you to acknowledge that you are in such a relationship. Most women go through toxic relationships and there is this denial in them. They know it's toxic. People may tell them that it's toxic, yet for one reason or the other, they may still decide to remain in a toxic relationship. Like he just said, you see a husband and a wife, every day they are like, we are not in good terms, but you see them in the same house, they stay in the same room, they raise children, and the wife still gets pregnant, and people are asking, what is happening here? So the first thing is acceptance. Accept that you are in a toxic relationship, and it starts with the mind, because the moment you accept, it means you are getting one stage closer to your healing process, whichever way. So how do you manage a toxic relationship? What can you do? After you have accepted that this is it, you find yourself in this toxic relationship and you want to move out of this toxic relationship, because remember, it's a mental health issue. You are in a relationship that is toxic. You cannot breathe well. It's almost like you are in a room with somebody who is suffocating you. Maybe their presence, anytime they walk into that room, into that house, into that atmosphere, into that office, because we are looking at relationships from the bigger picture. I'm in school with you, you are my friend, and you are my best friend, and the relationship is toxic. You are my boyfriend, the relationship is toxic. You are my husband, relationship is toxic. You are my father, is still toxic, because children grow up with childhood traumas. Your mother never acknowledges you in the house. They are always shouting at you, and you just feel that for some reason they love your elder brother or your younger sister more than the way they love you. That relationship also is toxic. So how do you walk out to that relationship? In the sense of the woman, once you have accepted that the relationship is toxic, then you begin to set boundaries. Setting boundaries is telling people straight up, I don't know, if your husband, for example, is violent, and you know that if you tell them that this is what you are doing to me, this is what you are doing to me, and they will be violent, you look for a way to let them know that they are hurting you, and that anytime you meet them, they keep hurting you. So in that case, you may want to look for a third party, a mediator, somebody who is there to bring peace. It could be your father-in-law, your mother-in-law, your sister, a pastor, somebody that your husband fears or respects, or somebody that both of you as a couple you fear or you respect. Then you begin to set boundaries. You put them down and you tell them, this is how I feel anytime you do this to me. This is how I feel anytime you do this to me. It plays on my emotions. It plays on my psychology. I am not happy. And you would realize that if there's a certain level of teachability in the relationship, things will go far. Because accepting is one thing. Knowing that you have hurt somebody and accepting and wanting to learn and move forward is a good thing. But saying that you are the autotone, or saying that you are the man, or saying that nobody can tell you what to do, it means you don't want the relationship, or you don't want the woman to also have a peace of mind. And the Bible says that it's better to flee away from a nagging woman, because it's as if you have carried something and put on your neck like a chain. So if you don't want to give that woman peace, you will not also have peace in that house. So away from setting boundaries, telling them what you want, another thing is communication. How do you sit this person down to talk to them? Are you very harsh anytime you have a problem and you want to talk to them? Are you facing reality? Are you putting them down over a nice plate of food? If you know that this is what he likes, for example, is it that your love language with your husband is sex, for example? Are you giving him good sex, and then after that you present it to him on a platter of gold? So all of these things should happen. These are some of the things that you put into consideration. And once you are setting boundaries, you begin to tell yourself, I want trust in this relationship, because at times when trust is broken, we cannot move forward. So if we are accepting that we are starting over, we are moving on the basis of this, you begin to tell them, this is what I don't like, this is what I like. Are you going to trust me? Can you trust me enough? And then if all of that is done, I feel that from there we are going to be moving forward. So it's a lot. And also, it's not allowing people to manipulate you. He also said that, because people who are are in the toxic relationship, at times they have the influence of somebody who is like a narcissist. He's egoistic. He's only thinking, he or she is only thinking about themselves. They are so self-centered and so selfish that they don't care how you feel, how you react. At times a woman may be hurting, and because you are the husband, all you are thinking of is let me make love and go. And then maybe she's crying and you are not feeling for her, and you are not compassionate enough, and you are not even talking to her. How can you qualify such a relationship? It's toxic. It also goes with the children, shouting at them all the time, hating on them. Maybe it's a child that has gone through violence in the house. Maybe it's a child that maybe the father or whosoever or a guardian is raping them, and the child is feeling afraid and feeling shy and all of that. They are in a toxic relationship. In that case, they need to seek help. And even in your marriage, if you see that you have mediated, you have struggled to talk to your husband, the third party is not helping, maybe you go now and meet a psychologist, or you go now and meet a therapist, and you seek help and you talk to people. Let people know that what you are going through is real, because it starts normally. It's a toxic relationship. It will move to trauma. One day it will move to stress. Another day it will move to grief, to loss. All these stages before you get into depression, and then you see people start having suicidal thoughts. It just starts like that. So I feel that those are a couple of things that you should do if you find yourself in such a relationship. You communicate very well with the person. At least one party should be ready to give room for peace, because if somebody on the other table does not want to give room for peace, then nobody is going to go anywhere. So communicate, you set your boundaries, and then you look for a mediator, a third party. I think those are a couple of means through which, if somebody is in a toxic relationship and they want to get out of it, that's what you should do.
Thank you very much, Madam Honorine. And we're looking at toxicity, and obviously we know it's a problem that exists in the society. But then we also have to look at maybe possible ways of mediating this problem. So, Doctor, I want to ask you, how can individuals walk through feeling of shame, guilt, and anxiety in a toxic relationship? Because most often people find themselves stuck in these relationships because of that fear of, no, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be isolated. I don't want to be left out on maybe the societal issues. So how can people actually walk through this anxiety, shame of being in a toxic relationship?
Okay, thank you very much. Like you rightly said, with the topic toxicity, it's this one on this topic is like a description, but it's a whole science. We are talking about toxicity, and it's what we actually call neurotoxicity.
Okay.
And so it is neurotoxicity that leads to the toxic, stressful environment at home, that leads to abusive relationships. And so like she started bringing out some of the key aspects. The genesis for all mental health disorders most of the time starts with trauma. Trauma could be abusive words, or ignoring somebody's gestures or attention. And so trauma, the impact of trauma on the human immune system starts affecting that person's mental dispositions. And you start seeing that person being low in their response, being slow towards collaboration, towards engagement. Those are things they were normally excited about before. So, but the impact of trauma did not really start at that adult age, because we are looking at adulthood here now. But adverse child experiences, which happens to be the baseline for trauma, well, it happens most of the times when people are below 18. So your childhood experiences are very important, because they build what you want to call future. And so that's why in the services we develop, because we must develop our society. And that means once a problem is found, we shouldn't look at a short-term solution. We should look at a detailed management plan that can work for everybody, not for some people. So there is a roadmap. So even with families, you can screen for the presence of such tendencies in the family, because the family unit is the backbone of the nation. And so if we are ignoring such things as a result of shame, fear, anxiety, which you made mention of, it's equally a problem. Why? Because God even says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So they think that then you hear the society will say, now which women know the key. But that's not true, because God says ignorance is what kills. Then some people shy away from knowing, from getting, and most of the time men are a little bit shy when it comes to information about health in the family, about well-being. Their minds are shaped to go and hunt, to hustle. And so it's mostly the women who care about the well-being, the welfare of the home. So it's a gift. And I think the woman should not play the blame game, should act as the what we call the manager. And the manager observes and gives report. And so I think if a man constantly, every man who engages in a relationship wants to live better, no matter his bad experiences. There are many men who went through a terrible experience, but they are ready to learn. And I think ladies should learn earlier before they get into a relationship, because if I love this lady, I can be patient to listen to her, to talk to me. And whatever she addresses, I will make adjustments towards that. So neurotoxicity, then, because when trauma occurs, it damages some sensory nervous action in a man. That now affects your ability to regulate emotions. There is a part in the brain known as the amygdala that deals with emotional regulation. So when such structures in the human body is tampered with, the person has been injured in some way, and so his coordination cannot be 100% effective. Even his communication, even his body language will be different. So his self-esteem, I know most men act out of shyness, what we call fear, insecurity. And when a man will get violent when a woman starts saying, look at how your friends are doing. And is that how your friends are doing? He becomes very wild. And you know what an angry man can do. So I think words are a very powerful tool in the home, and it should be used carefully, because it can make the home as well as it can destroy. Because even the expression of words for a person who has been affected mentally is different. For example, they always say, now so it don't always be. Yes, now only you. And things like that. So you find out that the other person, you are not collaborating. You should have instead pointed, hey, please, I want to talk with you. I want us to talk. I'm not comfortable about this. Point it out. You say, please, I would like us to make an adjustment. Don't say, I want you to make an I want us. Because it is about two of you. Yeah, so if you understood, both of you became one. The problem is not caused by one person. If you never existed, I will not have a problem.
Exactly.
So it is about us. So if you shift it now to you, the you can become worse, because you are not helping that you to become better. So in line with that, once neurotoxicity occurs, things like personality disorder starts happening. So you see people with low self-esteem, some could have high self-esteem. Then you start seeing people with social disengagement, like social disorders.
Addiction.
Yeah, so you see somebody, he's not socially inclined. You see, most families, they want to come and say, now my woman know how to do that thing fine, and don't know me. When you joke, then somebody say, now my master, they do all that thing them more, and don't know. So why? Because you are not socially engaged. Why? Because of a personality issue. And you didn't see that you could upgrade because life is a constant learning process.
Like I was saying, there should be that aspect of teachability,
yes,
and learnability.
Yes.
Ready to learn.
Yes, and you find out that like I posted something on my status, you find out that you who comes to know more, by the time you want to make things right, they'll like, he over know, he over claim saying no, and then he over I don't like me, or any small thing more just talk and things like that. I think if someone is gifted to know better, it's for both of you to be improved, to become better people. So about that, when you start suffering from social disorders, it's going to express now into severe conditions of mental health disorders, like the anxieties, like the stress, like now the stress now, because the trauma had occurred, is now labeled as a post-traumatic stress disorder. So it is a stress that had occurred that has been resurfaced. So in that light now, it will jeopardize your living together. The first thing we have to know is making a family, or it's a journey towards a goal to be achieved. But the truth of it is, many families just thought it's about man and woman coming together and giving birth to children. There is a whole lot of things the nation is supposed to benefit from a particular family. The president of a nation is supposed to come from a family. The governor, the delegate. So when both of us focus on ourselves, we have not even realized ourselves. We don't know our potentials. We keep fighting and arguing. So who are we going to be raising? We are going to raise people with no definite values, and it will cripple our economy. Because one, a toxic environment starts, because toxic stress is transgenerational. It moves from one generation to the other. And that's why, because of this toxic stress, it can continue what we call a vicious cycle. This vicious cycle could be low educational level. It could be poverty. It could be a health risk factor. And that's why you start seeing, because of the elevated stress factor, you always have a tense environment. You always find people coming up with high blood pressure. Did you notice high blood pressure is on the rise almost everywhere? It's not because they ate fufu or that one. It is because of the environment, the toxic nature of the environment. So many parents are hypertensive today because of the impact of the stress from the husband or the wife and the children too. Because the environment has a lot to do. So with the stress you mentioned, the anxiety, they will all play a negative toll on the person's life, and eventually your lifespan reduced, your economy affected, and we may, you see the society going for more cry dies, which is not healthy for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And to you, Madam Honorine, if you agree with me, among young persons, maybe young persons, they don't, I don't know if I should say they don't value friendship anymore, because a lot of these low inferiority complex sets in, and people just feel, they just feel so, how do I put it, they are too full of themselves. They feel like every other person around them is less, especially when people start working, or maybe you step on another level more than your friends, and then you start feeling like you all are not on the same level. I think that brings a lot of envy and jealousy, and maybe you want to outline for us some of these red flags that may indicate a toxic relationship. You see young persons, they say, I mean, this relationship is toxic, you're a very toxic person, but I don't know if they really understand the meaning of that word toxicity. Maybe you want to outline for us some of the red flags that people have in a toxic relationship and why they should escape from it, because it plays a lot on their health, mental health especially, which is very important to them.
Okay, if you want to detect that you're in a toxic relationship, you realize that there's a lot of constant criticism. You cannot be in the house with somebody or a friend, because we are talking at relationship and we are not looking at marriage. So you cannot be in a relationship with somebody and all the time they are out to criticize you. Whatever you do is not good enough. Whatever you say is not good enough. The way you dress does not look good. The way you talk does not look good. There's also lack of trust. Lack of trust. Those are some of the things that we are looking at. Excessive jealousy. He already said it. You are in a relationship and you want everybody to hear from you. You are just so jealous excessively, and it's what will lead to battery in a relationship. Why would somebody beat another person up? Maybe they are just so jealous. It comes with controlling behaviors. Where are you going to? Why are you not picking my calls now? Who were you with? Why are you standing in this place? It also is just so lack of respect. You don't respect people's boundaries. For example, somebody would say, this is what I don't like, and all the time you find yourself only doing that same thing that they don't like. So it's just like that. Lies telling, deception to a greater extent, you know, constant criticisms, belittling them, giving everyday harsh words. You good for nothing person. I hate you. Why did you even come to this world? You know. And he talked something about post-traumatic stress disorders. With women, when they give birth, they even get to, because you're already in this poverty level, and then you see this child coming, or you see this child has come. On top of that, maybe the husband or the person is not even with you, it's a boyfriend, or it's even still your husband, but he does not love you. And then you take all of that anger and you begin to pour on your child. That emotional manipulation, those are some of the things that when you see, you begin to know that no, there's something wrong somewhere. The manipulation is too much. You know, somebody will want to talk to you. Before they talk to you, they cry like 2 liters of water first, and then they really know that they have wronged you, but they feel that when they cry, when they come to you and they tell you I'm sorry, you accept them, you go back and do the same thing, and the next time they still have the energy to come again to you and still cry. So all of those things, I feel that when someone is just so dramatic over nothing and all of that, those are some of the things that we are looking at.
Okay, thank you very much. And more often than not, some persons prefer to have older friends because they feel these friends are more pushful. They push them to their extremes to get to a level where they did not even believe they will get there, and all of that. So I think all of this also contributes to escaping from toxic relationships. Once you find out that this person is out just to belittle you, the person keeps criticizing you every now and then, there is nothing good enough that you do in their eyes. It means obviously, it's very obvious that that relationship is not worth it, and you should move before it gets to the extreme. So
I just wanted to add that most often I think it starts with self. When you have walked on a journey with yourself so much so that you know yourself and you understand yourself, it's one of the greatest thing you can do to yourself, because there are people who have just lost self-esteem in themselves, that they no longer, they look at the mirror but they cannot recognize themselves in that mirror. I think it's another way to decide to take a journey with yourself. Begin to define yourself. Who am I? Who is Honorine? What does Honorine want? What does Honorine like? You would realize that Honorine was somebody who was in a relationship, and every weekend or once a month she would like to go to the beach. Maybe she would like to play with children. And then you are in this relationship and they are like, sit in the house. When I go to work, I come back. So you see that in that you begin to lose yourself. And like he said, it deals with the mind. It works with your nerves. It's your neurons are affected, because you begin to ask yourself, what am I losing? Is it financial independence or financial dependence on that person? These are some of the things. But if you really know yourself, if you have lost yourself even, and you have accepted that you want to rediscover yourself and come out of the toxic relationship, then I feel that self-awareness is important. Self-love is important. You need to love yourself enough to let go of certain things, and you need to be aware of yourself. Who are you? We all have a purpose here on earth. So don't go and enter somebody's shadow and cover yourself up, or cover the who you are supposed to be, because somebody said you shouldn't be like this.
Okay, thank you very much. And of course, when we're talking of how to escape from toxic relationships, we're talking of building healthy relationships. Because if you find out something is toxic, obviously you want to get out from it and get to a better place. So doctor, maybe you have some mechanisms put in place to help people build healthy relationships. Like you said, you deal mostly with children, and children tend to retain some of these things they see in their homes or even in their families. Some children grow up maybe with their grandparents, or so maybe with their aunties, and they see the behavioral changes of these persons. Maybe you have some mechanisms you've put in place for people to be able to build healthy relationships, and you might want to share with us.
Okay, thank you very much. There are definitely well laid down standards. I think man was created in the image and likeness of God, and one of the attributes of man is love. And so love is something that can be nurtured. That means it can be it can be developed. So, but once there is interest, it can facilitate the nurturing of love. And so, like we said earlier, love is not just about the love. It's about mutual respect. It's about effective communication. And there's a whole lot about that. And so, if the aspects of communication is being affected, it's just what is being affected in our relationship, then we can work on it. If the aspect of mutual respect, because not everything can be bad, not everything usually is bad. So it's first of all for you to identify those areas where you need help, because there's what we call unmet needs. So you should identify, because you might not have everything. So, and because you were not all raised together in one place. You never had the same background, not the same upbringing. So I have my shortcomings, you have your shortcomings, and we agree that okay, we want to be better people. And the first thing in life is have a definition of where you're going to in life. Because if I don't see how your involvement in my life can make me a better person, then I don't think we identify we identify what we call purpose. Yes, I should, in as much as I am in the medical field, you are in maybe educational, it still has a way to play together. But we must not all be from the same vocational background, that I am a doctor, you are a nurse, we have to open a hospital. No. We are talking here about how we become better people by living together. So, but if coming together, it has its challenges, we must be able to identify that here, we are having challenges here. How do we go about it? Then, if we realize that, we can start seeking help. The first thing is be able to identify. Because if the problem, one of the things mental health issues do to people is that it causes them to be less sensitive to the environment. So things are happening around you, you don't know. You always discover that. So you are not alert. You lose interest from the environment. Especially, and that's why a lot of children, you see a lot of children being raped today. It's because the parents, they have lost interest in the environment. They are more focused. Maybe the woman has taken the challenge of hustling now, so that she could also have something to bring to the table. And now the children are left loose. And so the man too is on that other end. And so the purpose of why they even came together, which was procreation, they are forgotten. So I think you identify the challenges, you document them, and then you come up with a safety plan. If it is affecting you and I, what is the contingency plan? What is our management plan? There is a better way of managing crisis in the house. For example, if you had a difficult child, both of you in the house, and the child has come up again with an issue, and this other partner is already wrecked, what is your strategy of overcoming that? There is a strategy like tap and pass. So once you are red and I'm around, I just tap you, and you just say, talk to your child, and you move in the room to calm down. While you say, hey, what was going on between you and your dad? What was happening between you and your mom? At least that child has someone to listen to. Not just, I don't tell you for the house, not the talk for my beginning. So I think education is very important in what we are doing, and people should open up to be trained. And that's one of the things we develop a lot of beautiful training programs. We are having, families should be trained. Families should be trained, because we cannot talk all these things on the air. I talk today like that because I grew up, I saw my own challenges, and I decided to look for solutions. Like my parents, they always call me for any of their issues. They are very advanced in age, but you'll find out that in their late 50s, 40s, I could be the one at my early 20s to sit them down and resolve a dispute between them. Why? Because I could study. So education has a bigger role to play. And even with our parents, they don't take it easy. By the time you want to come home with the education they are saying, you say, I pay school fees and say you can't control me. So I think we have a lot. So when you document, then you have a contingency plan, then you start prioritizing your needs. The needs might be many, but start somewhere. Say, okay, this month we are working on our communication. So what is the aspect of communication? Maybe the response, the time to respond. Maybe the medium. Maybe the manner. So you have to always agree. This is how we end the call. If you have not gotten this, don't end. You know, some people, I just say bye. You just say bye, you end it. The other person has not even said bye on the other end. Maybe he has something on the mind to still say. So but you just off the person. So you must have these shared values. And then you must equally, now, don't just hurry up to set boundaries. Because when you set a boundary in love, you are gradually walking out. And we can't be together, we can't be striving together, and then you are blocking me. Like, especially on social media, I say, I Joe block you. So they block you on social media and they equally block you in life. They start selling by the children, go and tell your mother that. The same woman you saw you cannot talk to, which is not really healthy. So you equally can prepare for, you can then, it is when you repeated reminders about the aspects have not been respected, then you start setting boundaries. Yes, setting boundaries is just to call the person's attention that, hey, I'm losing interest because I've been talking regularly and you're not listening. And he should be able to identify that the boundaries are really clear, and then he will say, what is going on? And I'll be able to say, I've been talking on something which is really affecting me, but you seem not to care. The person will like, wow, they talk. And don't say it in a harsh way. The fact that you are going through a difficult time does not mean you should express anger. Say, because the vex. Yes. That your anger cannot solve a problem. It can only kindle the problem. So the next, if setting boundaries seems to fail, you set a small resistance. You must cope. The definition for mental health, first of all, says is the state of well-being in which every individual can realize his or her own potentials, can cope with the normal stresses of life, and can work fruitfully and productively, and is able to make a positive contribution to his or her community. So your family is your community, and every one of us is supposed to make a positive contribution. So, but if your contributions are coming in, you are a valued member. So laziness equally is one. Come out from that laziness. The laziness could be the laziness to take the challenge to go to school, to learn. In fact, like I mentioned about education, we go for professional development courses, true or false?
True.
We go for, what again? Personal development courses, professional. But people seem not to go for family development courses. So good news is we have a very beautiful family development course ready for the public. And the purpose for every family is a legacy. I want to ask a question. That challenge you keep holding, I know call you, I'll see what you will do. How does it contribute to your legacy? Because that's how you will die a useless person. You will give birth to children who will become drunkards and smokers. Why? Because you upheld your grievances and forgot your destination. So I think having a definite purpose will really be something interesting. So it will always end with you now, after the preparing of resistance. You can factor in the aspects of logistics. Logistics is, if staying together could not resolve this issue, okay, you are not separating, you may want to take a break for some weeks to stay with family. And so you are not going to say, give me, you have to inform, please, I need some time away from here. I need to calm myself. And you have to be somewhere they can trace you, not to just disappear from home. They say, where are you? They say, so you should always prepare for that. And your bills should be, you should be able to take care of your bills. Don't carry your problem into another man's home because you could worsen the case.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And Madam Honorine, looking at, we were talking of escaping from toxic relationships. Obviously, we're trying to build healthy relationships, and we want the women out there to be conscious of these facts that once a relationship is toxic, be it at your job site, be it at home, the family, the church, wherever you find yourself, social groups, you should always devise a mechanism or a strategy to step out of this toxicity, or a strategy of building a healthy relationship. So maybe you want to share with us, or maybe you know some of these strategies or some of these mechanisms we could set, or women could set, or women could educate themselves on how to build healthy, sustainable relationships out there.
Okay. I think you need to first of all know that as human beings, like he said, we were trained differently, brought up differently, raised in different manners, went to different schools. So you first of all need to learn to practice compromise. In as much as you are what you are, you need to also be able to compromise with others. You need to also learn how to support each other. Are you supporting your friend's idea? Are you supporting your spouse's idea via business? Because we need emotional support, we need financial support, and at the end of the day, we need to maintain our individual interests. You know, don't go so much in a relationship and you focus on the other person and forget about yourself. So what's your personal growth plan? Are you growing in that relationship? Are you having space for yourself? I call it my me time. Are you sitting and reflecting on yourself, reflecting on your journey? Do you reflect all the time? I want to learn. It still falls under personal development. Are you mindful enough? Like I said, be mindful. Pay attention to your thoughts, to your feelings. How are you feeling? What are your behavioral patterns? Are they changing? Are you in line with what you said you are? And then focus also on the positive. At times, saying affirmative words to yourself helps you. At times, giving a pat on your back also is very important. At times, taking yourself out, pampering yourself. I spoke here about self-care, self-attention, self-love. You need to show all of that to yourself. Focus on the positive. I am honoring, yes, I lost 5 million in the business. I lost 300,000, but I will not remain in that loss. I decree and declare that I will prosper. I declare and declare that I am a favored child. Give yourself affirmative words. I am beautiful, so wonderfully made in his image. I smell beauty. I speak beauty. I am the essence of his eyes. When you tell yourself that, no man will talk down on you, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, na me this or na me for that before time. So you know, those are some of the things that you should remember. It's always about giving attention to yourself, accepting the situation, appreciating yourself, even the affection. There's just a lot to do. Showing respect, building trust, it's spending quality time with yourself. It's so much. If you do some of these things, I feel that somehow, somewhere, we'll be going, or we'll be aiming for the better version of ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much. And as we know, we are running out of time, but then before we leave, maybe doctor, you have a word for some of those women, or should I say parents out there who let their children see, maybe go through that through that trauma, and then it affects them on a daily. You deal with children, of course, and maybe there's something you want to tell parents to prepare the minds of their children, to save these children from getting trauma through their own experiences, through their own toxic relationships. How do they keep their children out of it?
Okay, thank you very much. Children are a product of love, and whether they came by mistake or not, they are a product of love, and so all they deserve for proper growth and development is love. And so irrespective of your differences as a couple, it shouldn't extend to them. And that is why we must defend each other, in that even if they overheard us, you say, no, that this is getting better. Don't say, is it not that you're a stupid father? You can't talk that way to a child. And then you can't equally say, you're mommy of a door. They try always me succeed. You can't talk that way. So we must defend each other's interests, and so it is by building a supportive environment that we can support their growth and development. So why do we say this, and why did I come down to talk about things like that? As a public health specialist, we look at disease prevention and control. We are having a lot of autoimmune diseases. our emotions affects our immune system. And I think the strongest, for example, did you know somebody who is severely depressed or who is suffering from cancer at a certain stage tests positive for HIV? Why? Because when you are severely affected, you're drained emotionally, you lost, your immune system is compromised. So your immune system becomes depressed, and then you become vulnerable to diseases. And then autoimmune diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, we are seeing it very common today. These are not witchcraft practices. They are a reflection of these things we talk about. And they cost us a lot. They cost, in fact, to manage a whole cancer session is a whole lot of money. But cancer is a build-up of bitterness, long-term anger that alternated your DNA, and then so there was some malformation in your cell growth and development. And so we can prevent and live healthily and longer when we nurture this loving environment. And it is a loving environment is an opportunity for healing. You can heal from this long-term effect of trauma. Everybody can heal from trauma and live a happy and better life. And that is why people should start opening up to seeking healthy services and intervention programs. Communities should welcome mental health services for their people, because I think if everybody, now like you said, I don't only focus on children, but we want to protect the children. But now our service is actually person focused but family centered. Every child comes from a home. If a child who was performing well, taking first with 18 average, suddenly comes up with 14, we have the right to say, what happened to you? There are parameters or risk factors we must assess, and once we find it, we get to invite the family to say, hey, something is happening and we have to adjust it. Because every child is our child. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And to you, Madam Honorine, maybe you have a word for maybe our women out there who are still burying themselves in these toxic relationships, and you want to give them a word of advice on how to create healthy relationships that is going to help them in the long run.
Okay, I think if you follow the program, we've given a lot of advice. But I feel that if you're in a toxic relationship, the way forward, it's assessing yourself. Assessing yourself. Like, do a rundown. Are you happy? What does happiness mean to you? Because in a relationship, what is making you happy must not necessarily make the other person happy. That's why in a relationship there has to be tolerance. But we all have tolerance levels. When we have already said it and resaid it and still said it and it's not working, what next should you do? Would you remain in a toxic relationship, and why not? Someday we hear that you are no more and you lose your life. Would you remain in a toxic relationship, and as you remain, you lose yourself in that relationship? We'll realize that most people, most parents, most persons are in a relationship, but they have left the relationship. They are physically there, but their mind is not there. Psychologically, they are not in that relationship, and it's going to show. Their countenance will say it all. There's a man, there's a woman that has been so broken and so heartbroken and so battered and shattered that at times you want to talk to them. If they are not sitting quiet, if they are not crying, they are just looking at you and they have just ignored you. They have just allowed you to yourself. It means, yes, they are in that marriage. Yes, they are in that relationship. Physically, yes. But psychologically, emotionally, they are not invested in anything. So don't just rush and say, I need a divorce, I need a separation, I am going. We always prescribe peace. And peace will mean that we start from the root causes. What is making me act this way? can you help me solve this? Can we solve this together? Can we do this together? When you try and try and try and there is no other way, I think at this point in time, you can after counsel, after meeting people, you can safely say that maybe you want to retire, maybe you need to step back somewhere to reflect better, to reason better, and maybe when you come back, there's this sense of, yes, I feel fresh, I feel free, I've had my ideas worked out and everything. But don't remain in the toxic relationship and then end up losing your life or losing your sanity, because we are talking here about mental health. People can stay and one day you hear that they have killed themselves because they were in a toxic relationship.
Thank you very much, Madam Honorine. And before we take leave of you, we just wish to thank our panelists here present. Madam Honorine Chen, thank you so much for coming and thank you for contributing on the program. And of course, Dr. Tamanjong Armstrong, thank you very much for being part of the discussion this day. And we hope our discussions on today's edition of Women's Voice makes you stand out there as a woman. Of course, we all need love, we all need compassion, we all need some certain level of kindness, and that is why you should not bury yourself in a toxic relationship because of low self-esteem. You could stand out there as a woman, shine your light, and create better, healthy relationships that are going to help you in the long run to maintain your sanity and of course to keep you in place. Before we take leave of you, we want to also thank our broadcaster this evening for making the program a success, for giving us the best of sounds and the images. Ambrose and Randy, thank you so much for making the program a success, and stay tuned to Divine Mercy Radio Television for more interesting programs. I've been Magdalene Mundo. See you next week.